it's not even that I'm like upset about a wrinkle or a blemish or a pigmentation. It's this just really weird phenomenon that happens where you don't recognize yourself and you're trying to look like you always have, and not in an age way, but just in a recognizing yourself.
Guys, let's talk about aging in today's video. Signs of aging, how you don't recognize yourself anymore when you look at the mirror, how you are not even prepared for your old age. Like when you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you are not prepared. Let's talk about it.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about this yet. I want to share my experience with aging. I'm 37 now. I'm going to be 38 in a week. And in the last year or so, I've really struggled with my appearance. And it's not so much of like a shallow thing, not wanting to look old. I know I'm not old yet, but if you're 20 something, you're like, oh, you are old. If you're 60, I'm not old, It's all relative. But it's not even that I'm like upset about a wrinkle or a blemish or a pigmentation. It's this just really weird phenomenon that happens where you don't recognize yourself and you're trying to look like you always have, and not in an age way, but just in a recognizing yourself. And so I'll do my eyebrows and I'm like, well, that didn't do it. Okay, maybe I just need more concealer. And then that doesn't do it. And then you realize you've lost volume in your face, and I now have these like really deep, they're just hollow, right? My thin is more skin. Just all these things have changed that makeup can't change. I guess plastic surgery or like augmentation injections can maybe fix, but it's just odd to seek yourself in the mirror or on camera and not be able to find it, and having to become okay with this new person. And I don't know. I think women will understand. Like, what you would look like with mascara versus not. You know what you look like with a face of makeup versus not. It's kind of the same way. Like, I swear, it's just like one day you're like, oh, I look like this. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't look like that. I look older and more tired. Let me do what I'm used to doing. The normal mascara, the normal eyeliner, whatever it is. And then that doesn't work and you're faced with aging. It's just it's okay, but it's definitely a trip.
Aging is inevitable, is something that we're not going to run away from. It's something we all are going to face, and it's also a beautiful thing, to age well. So I want to ask a question, because what do you think about the signs of aging? Have you experienced it before? Have you look at your former pictures and look at the way you're looking now and you're like, who is this? Or you're trying to put a makeup on your face and it's not makeup. We really need to talk about aging. This is not how to prevent wrinkles and everything. This is talking about aging, what you feel or what you see. All right. Kindly put your thoughts down in the comment section. However, I'm going to put out Stitch's video, people that stitch this video, their thoughts. Just sit down, relax, and watch what other people has to say about this particular topic.
Not so much of like a shallow thing, not wanting to look old. I know I'm not old yet.
Okay, I have not related to a video more recently than this one. I'm 34 years old. She was 37, 38 in the video, and stunning. But I'm 34, and there are most mornings where I wake up and I'm like, who is this bitch I see? Nobody prepares you for that point in your life. I don't know if it's only women or majority women or men and women. I don't know. I can't speak to men's experiences. But as a woman who is 34, turning 35 this year, this whole video spoke to me. Just go watch the whole thing if you're in my age group. I feel like you'll get it. But she talks about how one day you just kind of look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself, and how nobody prepared you for it. And it's so funny. I had this conversation with my boyfriend maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't recognize the thing that's looking back at me. And it's been such a tough pill to swallow, to say I'm in my mid-30s, I'm unmarried with children, and I'm okay with that. But that toxic culture of feminine responsibility and role plays into it. And it's just so crazy to, like, even just lay here and put a selfie on my face. Like, I want to sit like this and, like, do angles and do makeup, but I'm never going to. Actually, that looked pretty good. No, but, like, I get what she's saying, and it's just really hard. I mean, I hope videos like hers talking about mid-30s women in an app and a era that feels like it's 20-year-old influencer obsessed makes you feel better, because that sense of shock value, it's very real. It's very real. And I don't know. I guess we have to all go through it, but I don't know. We have to find ways to do it. It sucks so much.
Really weird phenomenon that happens where you don't recognize yourself.
So a few years ago, I had a conversation with my mother about one of the more interesting, disconcerting parts of getting older, in that in a lot of ways, as you age, you feel largely the same, right? You're still you, but one day you wake up and look in the mirror and realize that you no longer recognize the person that you're looking at. And I remember thinking that was just the most terrifying idea, of this sense of, like, being trapped and unable to affect change and control over your body. The woman in the original video is 37, going on 38, and she says that she's starting to have some of these moments, some of these experiences. I just turned 40 a few months ago, and I've also been having a lot of similar moments, with a slight variation, because so I started transitioning at the age of 38. I've been on hormones for a little over a year and a half now, and a lot of the more apparent changes have only really started to happen in the last few months. So it's been interesting to be at the age that I'm at. And on the one hand, my body is changing and aging in ways that are new to me. And on the other hand, I feel like I'm getting these glimpses of this person that I should have always been, that I could have always been. And it's sort of uniquely terrifying, because in a lot of ways I feel like I just got here, right? And I don't want it to go away. But then the other thing too is, when I think about it, that feeling of looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself is something I've experienced for 95% of my life. I don't really have any insights or suggestions. I guess I just know what I'm going to be talking about in therapy this week, so Thanks.
Really weird phenomenon that happens where you don't recognize yourself.
Oh my god, this video is literally what I've been thinking about for like the past couple weeks to a month. I was literally talking to my husband about it the other day. And you know, when I was younger, like when I was 16, I would always be like, oh man, I wonder what I'm gonna look like when I'm 21. And then when I was 21, I wonder what I'm gonna look like when I'm 25, what I'm gonna look like when I'm 30. And I wanna say like literally in the past year, maybe 2 years, I really started to notice a difference. Like throughout my 20s, I always felt like I looked pretty much the same. And I still feel like I look the same. I don't feel like I look old or I feel old. There are nuances as you get older that you notice. But overall, like I feel like I still look young and I still feel young. But I started noticing like when I take selfies or pictures, video, or even when I'm doing my makeup, like I've changed it a little bit over the past couple years too, probably because of this phenomenon. Like I really look different. I'm like, man, like I actually feel like I look 30. Like I look different, is what I mean by that. Not like you're supposed to look a certain way when you're 30, but it was just like I never saw like a shift. Like I always thought I looked the same, and then it was just bam, all of a sudden, like, girl, you look old. And again, I don't mean like old like in a negative way, just like, bitch, you look a little bit older, you look different, you're growing up, like look at you. It's so weird because no one has ever like talked about this, and it's definitely something that kind of like fucks with your head and fucks with like, I guess a little bit your self-esteem at sometimes, because it's like this is like a whole new you that you have to like adjust to, even though it's not a whole new you, if that makes sense. Anyways, let me know if you've been experiencing this or have experienced this. I even saw another video where someone was like, you know, a woman experiences this like in 3 phases, like, you know, between 28 and 32, and then like in your late 30s, and then in your early 40s. So I don't know. And even when I look at like pictures, old pictures, before I used to not really tell a difference. I always felt like I looked the same. And then now that I'm 32 and I look at my pictures like since I turned 30 and then like before that, I can really see the difference, and it's just so mind-blowing. And then I've been teasing my husband too, because even for him, I'm like, oh, look at you looking like a grown man, because he looks totally different too. So I think it's just something that not just women go through, obviously men do too, but it's just a really interesting phenomenon.
Year or so, I've really struggled with my appearance.
I'm a cosmetic dermatologist. Let me tell you something about aging. This young woman, yes, she is young, is 37, 38, and she's saying that over the past year, she has noticed a shift in her face. Nothing looks off. If there's one thing dermatologists are really good at, it's recognizing patterns. And I've been in practice for nearly over 10 years. And one big pattern that I've seen when it comes to aging is that there are 3 peaks in life when you notice changes to your face quite drastically. The first occurs at 28 to 29. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't do this while I do my eyeliner. Be right back. Going for the second eye. But the first one occurs literally in your late 20s before you turn 30 up to 31, 32, where you notice that over the course of 6 months, something's shifted in your face. Like you can't quite pinpoint it, but you're like, I don't look quite the same in my pictures and something is off. The second happens when you are in your late 30s to early 40s, around 38, which is what this young woman is turning. And the reality is, I have a lot of patients who come in who tell me over the course of a month, I do not recognize myself. I've actually recently experienced this where all of a sudden I woke up and I felt I was jowly. It's like, what's happening here? But it's absolutely normal. It happens in your late 30s to early 40s. And the last peak happens in your early to mid 40s, where overnight something shifts and you wake up and you do not recognize yourself. I know it sounds tragic, but that is truly what I have noticed in my practice. And there you have it, the 3 peaks of life when you notice the aging process hit you like that. Let me know in the comments section below if you relate.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about this yet. I want to share my experience.
I'm sitting here drinking my coffee, and this video resonated with me so much. Go check out what she is saying about her experience with aging and how it relates to how you feel about your appearance. I have a really similar feeling to her. I mean, it's not like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel old or I look old all at once. There's like this creeping realization that happens little by little, and then it starts to gather in speed, kind of like a snowball going down a hill, picking up more snow and growing in size. I feel like the first time I even noticed aging at all was when I was 34 years old. I distinctly remember it, and this is a little bit morbid, but it was literally the day after my dad died. And I got up and looked in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, I have crow's feet. Did I get those overnight? And then it's just sort of like, you're chasing this appearance that you've always been used to. So you're like, why doesn't my concealer work anymore? Like, why is my hair not as, XYZ as it used to be? And you just sort of like try to buy a new product or a new hair dryer or something, and you can't quite figure it out. So you get a new haircut. I don't know, maybe you dabble in Botox or fillers, maybe you don't, whatever. But one day it just sort of catches up to you and you realize, yeah, those things don't work anymore because like I'm different. My hair is thinner. My face has less volume. I have more wrinkles. I'm drier. Whatever it is. It's really bizarre. It's really surreal because like in my mind, I am ageless. I wouldn't even say like, oh, I'm 17 or whatever. No, I'm just like who I am in my mind. And this outside vessel is changing without my permission, certainly. I'm also not super mad at it. I also think aging is an absolute privilege. Remember, the alternative sucks. But you do sort of have to grapple with your mortality in a real way. You have to grapple with your loss of youth, your place as a woman in society that is highly dictated by our appearance and youth in really unfair ways. My mom always says aging is not for the faint of heart. And she also sometimes says, as a 77-year-old woman, that she looks in the mirror and the person that looks back at her, she's like, who is that? I just don't recognize that person. So it's all really interesting. Let's talk about it.
I want to share my experience with aging.
First off, want to say hi, Nat, and I totally agree with you. I think we need to normalize talking about aging. Instead of focusing on the appearance part, I think because everything in our body is interlinked, I want to talk about physically, like internally, the aging process that I've been experiencing since I hit 40. First thing I noticed is I would get migraines a lot more often right around my cycle time. It started off before my cycle and then shifted into after my cycle. I'm talking about like migraines that would last me an entire week where I can't do anything and it's just like pounding in my head. And unfortunately, if you look online, there's no specific articles about like getting migraines as we age as women. They talk about migraines in general, which I think it's so not helpful. Literally had to find multiple articles and a combination of information to find the right supplements and things that I can do to remedy these migraines. And basically a combination of the right supplements and vitamins is what helped me a lot because painkillers didn't even do the trick towards the end. And that's why it is so important to start normalizing aging for women and have a more open conversation because this kind of info shouldn't be that hard to get. And until I sat down one time at a cocktail party with some of my girlfriends, and there was a friend of a friend, and we started chatting, and literally we had the same symptoms, and we're like, oh my god, why is nobody talking about this? I really do believe in aging gracefully, and it's okay to be proud to be every age a step along the way. And even though I loved my 20s, I'm very, very happy at being 40 and where my life is at. So I don't think I should be shamed for it, and if my body's going through something, I don't think we need to hide it. I'm turning 41 this year, and I'm sure as my age goes up, more things is bound to happen with my body, and I hope as these conversations become more common that I would find some comfort and help from my fellow ladies. And honestly, if I can age like Helen Mirren, I think I'm good. Stay beautiful, my ladies.
I want to share my experience with aging. I'm 37 now.
I so love that this creator has shared her experience, and I have to say it's really made me pause and reflect and think about my own experience with aging, because I'm 37 and I'm going to be 38 in October. And I've thought about a lot of what she said, and it's made me realize that part of the reason why I feel comfortable in my skin, why I recognize myself too, is a big part of the fact that I really don't wear makeup. I wear it less than once a week, if that. The times I put on makeup, it's for a special date night with my partner, or if I've got like a big presentation and I want to make sure like my eyes pop and people can see my facial features on the screens, because I don't know how small my face is going to be, you know, when I'm working remotely. But it's fascinating to me because I noticed that when she's sharing videos and pictures of herself from her younger years, she's got this beautiful full face of makeup on. And then for this video that she created, she's just got kind of a filter that they've put on there. And so it's a different experience. I look drastically different with makeup on. In fact, in my mid-20s, I was getting ready for an event with a friend, and of course, this is my phase of life where I really wasn't wearing a ton of makeup. And she looked over at me and she's just like, wow, you're really pretty. And I was like, thanks. I didn't quite know how to take it, but what she means is like, oh, you're letting all your features pop, like you're letting what you look like naturally like really come through and shine through. And I had to think about that and wrestle with that for a bit, because there was a big period of my life where I essentially just stopped wearing makeup. Like occasionally would put on some mascara so I didn't look like, you know, I was coming from an epidemic and, you know, this sickly Victorian child. But by and large, like I just didn't wear it because it didn't make sense. And there was also another period of my life where I took on a different job, and the idea was that you wanted to look professional. And so part of that is women there and the agency that I worked for wore makeup all the time, wore it every day, and I felt a lot of pressure to do the same. And so when I was applying makeup every day and going to work and to look more professional, I struggled to recognize the changes in myself over the course of the 5 years that I worked there. And since I work at a different agency now where you don't necessarily need to wear makeup to be considered professional, I am feeling so much more comfortable in my skin. I recognize myself when I look there, and I'm actually really excited about the changes that I see from when I was like 15 to 18 to 25 to now 37. And I think this speaks to the overall broad conception is we just don't know what women look like, and we also have this perception of what they should look like. Bullshit.
A lot of people with their thoughts, with their opinion, with their relatable experience about this topic. It's really interesting. What do you think? I need to know your thoughts also down in the comment section. I personally feel like this is actually very real. It's something that we all are going to face and is inevitable. So we need to start talking about aging, what to expect, and how to prepare yourself when it gets to that time. So all right, my name is Maria David, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it